Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to an edition of the news that I've decided to call the good news. Reasons for that will become apparent very shortly. I hope everybody is well. I hope everybody has had a good week hitherto and not too challenging, and if so, then hopefully overcome with dignity and the necessary humility that would then make you a good person. I'm well, thank you very much. I've had a busy week, but I've had a productive week. I've most certainly had a challenging week, but here we are, all in one piece. So what was the problem, I guess? You know what I mean? I'm going to put this video out briefly because I want to make a couple of announcements and refer to one or two things that I have talked about in the past, and I would like to raise again, not in any way to stir an already simmering brew, but to basically highlight one or two things that are going on that if we don't pay close attention and don't remain vigilant, I'm not too sure what the word remain is the correct word to use to prefix that with, then we're going to have problems, whether within what we call our communities online or whatever in our close proximity in terms of the real world, if you like. So first and foremost, I'd like to first of all say a big thank you to Dave Murphy. If you're watching this, Dave, cheers, mate, for your support on Tuesday when you came by to the Flat Earth meetup. It was our second one at the Pavilion Arms on Wimborne Road in Bournemouth. Before then, we did have a few Flat Earth meetups, but the location had been changed, rightly so in my opinion. Very biased opinion at that, because I live in Bournemouth. But Ian and Scott moved it to Bournemouth. And yes, Dave came and graced us with our presence on Tuesday. That was our second one there in this location. Very good location, works very well. Quite easy to get to and all that. But yeah, thank you, Dave Murphy, for coming by. It was lovely to see you again. I've not seen you since last year, beginning of the Global I Tour, I do believe. I think we started in, it was Speaker's Corner. But it was lovely. The feedback I got days later when I spoke to people was a very positive one. And that's great. And, anytime Mr. Murphy would like to turn up and grace us with the presence again, please feel free to do so, because there are plenty of stuff to talk about, isn't there? And in one way, shape or form, it is absolutely all connected. No doubt about that. But yeah, big thanks to Dave, big thanks to Ian, big thanks to Scott, those who are, always staying on top of it, making sure it takes place, I should say. And it's growing nicely. I counted over 40 people there at one point on Tuesday, which was nice. And it was also good to interact with a couple of new people and network a little bit. And networking, not necessarily swapping phone numbers, you'd have to do that straight away, but certainly connect on Facebook and stuff like that so that people are aware of any upcoming initiatives or events and things like that, right? So they're the bits that I get out of those sorts of meetups for me personally, because, at the end of the day, it's always going to come down to retail communication, whites of the eyes, isn't it, really? Online will only offer you so much, and then the next step will be always to have that conversation or talk to people or get out and pass messages on or whatever, plant seeds and all that stuff. But anyway, that was great. Tuesday. And so, of course, we're going to have another Flat Earth meetup, Flat Earth social. This will be a regular thing, of course, but just as a nice reminder, this coming last Tuesday of the month, which will be the 30th, I think, of May. So be there or remain spherical, of course, is what I say. 1900 hours, Pavilion Arms, Wimborne Road, Bournemouth. I shall be there, of course. And that will be coming 3 days after a vigil that is being planned as we speak For the 27th of May in Bournemouth Gardens. That will be a Saturday. And the reason why we're doing this vigil, and I'll be mentioning this every time I put a video out, so if you've heard this in my previous video, I don't apologise. It's important. So what we're going to do is we're going to hold a vigil in Bournemouth Gardens. Yeah, we have done this sort of thing before, a few years ago, where the public kind of walk past us and we have things set up, and it will be individual stories of people and families, etc., 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 affected by the outrage that was the rollout of the last 3 years. Yeah, excuse me there. So, and I think it's important that we keep that at the front of our minds. Nothing's over. People are suffering to this day because of the consequences of what's happened. And we need to keep that message alive. We also need to keep alive the idea that that we're all in this together. Not idea, the fact that we are all affected, and we are all of us, no matter what side of any imaginary fence that the powers that are would like us to believe are in place, all affected by everything that's happened. On a health level, on an internal spiritual level, and all other levels, not curves, that you care to mention, right? So we will be doing that. A couple of people are already helping me out with that, which is great. And the idea is to also inform people of contact names and numbers of perhaps people, places that you can get in touch with to offer a bit of, if anything, solace, moral support, because we are all realistic also to know that certain procedures are not reversible. But what you can do is you can prevent them from happening again in the future and identify it, more importantly. But anyway, yeah, so that'll be the 27th of May, probably around 1 o'clock. The time of day exactly we haven't really decided upon. I'm open to what time of day, but certainly that day would be my preference, and I think that's what we're going to go for. It seems to be the one that fits well. Saturday, you know what I mean? All that. And it will be an opportunity to just interact and see where everybody's at in all of this, and just have a good conversation around that topic and more, like grown-ups. Which leads me to the next topic that I wanted to talk about, now that I've got all that out of the way. And that is, I will be, if you're watching this on YouTube, putting in a couple of links in the description below. One link will refer you to a podcast that I took part in 2020 with Stacey B, and it will be on her channel if you are interested, of course. But what was discussed on that podcast is what's not gone away, and this is actually more a community kind of thing that I'm addressing. However, it is actually identifying the very traits that we have a problem with when we talk about mainstream behaviors and all that. See where this is going? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a link to that podcast, because there's some really good points in there that were made back in 2020. And I'm also going to put a link in the description below of a live stream that went out yesterday from a friend called Mike Wilkerson, also known as Stelium7. And he addressed the topic, and absolutely rightly so, that needs calling out. And that is people's behaviors, just generally online and all that. Even those who regard themselves as pillar stones in the room of knowledge. Yeah, right. So, that will be worth watching. It's over 4 hours long, but he addresses some very, very valid points in there. Mike Wilkerson is a very highly respected man. I've met him. I've had the pleasure of meeting him, speaking to him, spending time with him, and how anybody could want to even go out their way to try and hang this man out to dry is, what can I say, really? It's not just pathetic. I can't really find the correct words to describe it, so I'm not even going to bother. The person I'm talking about is Paul Cook, who, you know, has risen to fame. You know, but of course, everybody has a boss. I'll just leave that there. So that would be an interesting listen to, and you'll find that there are certain things that just haven't changed. In fact, they've got worse. And it leads then to the next questions that you'd ask yourself, certainly I would ask myself, and that is, well, why is it getting worse? What's going on there? What is going on? You know, why are people being so nasty to one another when in actual fact all we're trying to do is get a little bit closer to a truth that we're probably never going to ever achieve, because there are so many layers to all of this, right? As fascinating as it all is. So the least people can do is behave correctly around each other and show a bit of that compassion that I was talking about earlier that we need to demonstrate when we go onto not demos and demonstrations and interact with people with the understanding that we are all in this together. And that includes people in the community creating content or whatnot. We are all in this together. What the hell is wrong with you all? What the hell? Your brain's gone to mush? What are you doing? You know? It's bloody crazy. It's absolute nuts. I've seen it all before, but I thought it had gone by now, that sort of behaviour. It's mental. Absolutely, literally mental. And there are those outside the community looking in, laughing themselves a new one. And rightly so, because I would. It's embarrassing. It is not just distasteful. It is criminal. That sort of behaviour where I work, for example, at the football club, at Bournemouth Football Club, if you hear anybody talking to somebody like that on a match day, it's an arrestable offence. Not that I care too much about authority, but the point I'm making is this is to be taken seriously. It's severe, right? And people are getting away with this behaviour and they have thousands of followers. I mean, it's mental. I'm not surprised people say to me things like, oh, YouTube, blah, blah, blah. You know, online things have a bad rap, you know, because of that sort of stuff. Never mind a community who doesn't know whether to look left or right, over their shoulders or whatever, people in it, trying to find out a bit more information, trying to get a bit of knowledge around stuff, trying to gain an understanding about certain topics. And then you have people's egos getting in the way and they're too busy taking pot shots and worse, much, much worse. I won't go into detail. It'll all become very evident when you watch Mike's video. Not video, but, you know, the recording of the live stream. Very, very, very eye-opening, as I commented in his live chat yesterday. So please do take the time, and even if you watch it half an hour, a bit at a time, very well researched, as I would have expected, to be absolutely honest. So, yeah, and Mike certainly has my support, there's no doubt about that. You know, Paul Cook, mate, don't be putting on your Britishness like that as well to impress your American friends. You're making yourself look like an absolute divvy. You are, lad. You are. Anyway, yeah, moving on from that to something very good in my opinion, and more of on a personal level really, and that is that I have actually found a place now to live. I know they are around, these places to live. It's just knowing about them and then identifying them and then having the help that you do need to secure them. So there is a lot of validity to the old saying of it's not what you know, but it's who you know. So, you know, I'd like to, of course, thank the person who helped me out finding this place. But nevertheless, yeah, it's happened. I found it. It will be very central in Bournemouth. And it definitely fulfills my very minimal needs because I'm pretty humble when it comes to stuff like that. I don't need an all singing, all dancing flat. I just need it nice, neat, large enough, tidy, in a tidy-ish area where it's not too much hassle, where I can just then crack on with my life, and that's it. Nothing much to ask for, is it really? Yet it is. But there we go. I thought I would end on a positive. So although I'm not doing cartwheels right now in front of the camera, I am buzzing inside, I have to say. I'm chuffed to bits. And I feel a little bit humbled. I just met a friend a couple of hours ago who I very much hold in high regard. And that was nice to have a chat with her for half an hour or so, whatever, and talk about a few things. It just made me realise, you really have to keep hold of the good ones. You really do. There ain't many of them around. There aren't. That is part of the challenge, I'm afraid. Discernment and vigilance. That's it. But keeps you sharp, though, that's for sure. But yeah, glad to bump into her. Not bump into her, but meet up. And also spoke to my dad on the phone as well recently, and about an hour ago actually, and similar sort of conversation, and very nice and stuff like that. You just think to yourself after all of that, you think, yeah, take a step back and look at the bigger picture. What is this all about in general? Well, we don't really have much time in our innings, do we, here in this realm? Not as far as we know. Because this is the point. No matter how convincing people sound, no matter whatever it is they're doing, especially in the research areas of the world, some of this stuff you ain't ever, ever, ever going to know. Right? Anyway, on that note, Larry's happy. I know I keep saying it, but it's worth repeating. That makes me happy, of course. Yeah. And we will see you probably on the next one after the weekend, I would imagine, because there is a few things going on this weekend. I shall be meeting a friend tomorrow in Bournemouth to discuss further what we're going to exactly do for the 27th, but that is definitely nailed on. And Sunday, not that you want to know my life story, I shall be working at Bournemouth Football Club. A slightly different world again. But yeah, so once that's all out of the way, I shall no doubt keep you updated with all the other stuff. But do check out the links that I put in the description below, because they are food for thought on a serious note. It is about behaviours and stuff like that, and people have to really check themselves a little bit and be a bit more mindful and aware. Life is getting complicated enough, isn't it? As if it wasn't already. Right, so on that note, we shall see you all soon, some of you sooner. Take it easy, enjoy your weekend, enjoy the good weather if you have any, and ta-ta for now.